When's the last time you talked to God like he was the best version of a father to you? I think sometimes when we talk to God, we think of him as more of our boss than our father. Maybe this week you might pray not with big words or attempting to be something you're not, but maybe just addressing him as father. And then Paul uses a second word, adoption. This is a word the Galatians would have understood at a very deep level. Adoption means full family rights, inheritance, official legal standing. God didn't want to bring you in temporarily. He wanted to give you his name. I remember the day that I went through my adoption. I was 4, and I remember the courthouse steps. They were huge. I remember thinking, I have to walk up all these steps. That's a lot of steps. But I remember getting up to the top of the steps. I remember walking in the building. I remember there was a really long hallway that I had to walk down. And I remember the hallway being really boring. I just remember looking at it thinking, this is a bad hallway. I remember sitting on a bench outside of the judge's room, office, I guess. I remember sitting on a bench, and I remember my feet couldn't touch the ground. I remember kicking there's like a crossbar thing that I was kicking with my heels. I remember that. I remember not how did I get into the room, but I remember then being in the room. I remember sitting on the lap of the judge, and he asked me a bunch of questions. I don't remember any of the questions. I just remember he asked me a bunch of questions. And then I remember leaving. I remember going to get in the car. Now, let's pretend that was your experience, that you were adopted. Now, let's fast forward to your first night at home. So, for you, probably they did some research. They made your room up with something that you liked. Maybe it was generic, I don't know. But you get home, your new home, and you go in and you open the door, this is your room. And you walk in and this is your bed. You look at it this is neat. And eventually it gets time to go to bed, right? It's bedtime. And so you go through the process of going to bed, and then they're tucking you in, this is cool. And hey, love you, good night. And they go out of the room, and you're like, hey, leave it cracked. Leave it cracked. I ain't scared, but leave it cracked, okay? And then a couple hours later, after you fell asleep, they come back in to check on you, right? And they open the door, and you're asleep on the floor. And you're sleeping on the floor because you convinced yourself that you didn't deserve the bed they bought for you. That's what was happening in the Galatian churches. God had said, hey, you're mine. And someone stepped into their life and convinced them they actually didn't deserve what he had given them. And Paul is so incredibly passionate about this because he knows this truth. When you forget who you are, you go back to living like who you were. And so he is lighting them up in the first 2 3/4 chapters. And now he has switched to appeal to their heart to say, people, we cannot get this wrong. It's not a semantics. It's not a preference thing in terms of which translation of the Bible we're going to read, ESV or NIV. It's not that. This is identity shifting, identity stripping. This is everything. To make his point, he gives us verse 6. Because you are his sons, God sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, the Spirit who calls out, Abba, Father. In other words, he's saying, look, Abba is Aramaic. It's the language Jesus would have spoke every day. So this Abba it's an intimate word. You're not going to say this to rando guy. Like this is a hey, you're my dad. And so he says, hey, just to make sure that you understand what happened, when you were adopted, he gave you legal standing. He gave you his name. You now are a part of his family. But he didn't just stop there. He didn't just stop there with, hey, okay, now they're with me. No, he said, I want you to begin treating me like I'm your actual dad. And if you've had a poor experience with your father and you're like, I don't know if I really want another father like that, he won't be. This is like perfection in a dad. So just because we have imperfect examples of it doesn't change what perfect examples of it looks like. He's the perfect, picture perfect of dad. And so Paul is saying, hey, just to let you know what happened, the Spirit of God was given to you so that you didn't just have to say, hey, thank you, Mr. God, for making me yours. Thanks, Mr. God, for allowing me to be a part. Thanks, Mr. God, for loving me. Thanks, Mr. God. This is so great, Mr. God. Thank you so much. He says, no, don't call me Mr. God. Call me Dad. Call me Abba. Like that's how much I love you. Just call me Dad. You know, God's saying, look, I don't just want you to follow my son Jesus. I actually want to be close to you. I want us to be close. Not just under the same name. Like that's not good enough. Like I didn't send Jesus to die so that we could just like exist under the same Christendom category. I sent him to die so that you would know me like a good father. And I would know you like a great father knows his kids. That's why I did this. Not to get you to follow me, but so that you would be close to me. When's the last time you talked to God like he was the best version of a father to you? I think sometimes when we talk to God, we think of him as more of our boss than our father. Maybe this week you might pray not with big words or attempting to be something you're not, but maybe just addressing him as Father.